stream to your, oh, we're live. We're live.
Yay!
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Dr. Tracy Debbie, and you all know Marilyn Bradford, the creator of Right Recovery for You. And we wanted to just say hi to you all and talk about family today, everyone's favorite subject. And it's the holidays coming up, so we thought perfect timing to talk about this.
Yes, because family is all of the things about family come up during particularly this holiday season.
Right.
And I think it's true. Of course, there are different holidays in different countries, but there seems to be something around the ending of a year and the new year. And of course, we have Thanksgiving. Canada has it a different time, but it brings up what we have still carried with us about family and what their expectations, projections, rejections, separation, judgments, conclusions, and presumptive realities, and all of those crazy things that we've taken on, they're like here. And a lot of us basically lose our adult person when we go home, or at
Yeah.
least we come in and out of it. I would love to know about your family kind of journey, Tracy.
Yeah, well, you know what's so interesting? And I've had this realization just actually kind of recently, like how much family was like a part of like the culture that I grew up in. And like family is like everything. It's sort of
Yes.
like the tagline. And my family is very big. So I was like around my family a lot when I was younger. Like instead of having friends, it was just like you just hang out with your family.
And what culture was that, Tracy?
So my parents are from South America.
Okay.
So, but like our like roots go back to like India. So I would say like we're
Uh-huh.
more like a South Asian culture. But I've noticed it with a lot of like Asian cultures, very like deeply rooted into family. Um, and so for me, there was a lot of things to like look at with this because I felt like family was the one thing I couldn't change. Does that make sense? Like I'll
Well,
have all this change in my life, but like
yes.
family doesn't change. I can't change that.
No, it's true that you can't change your family. What
Right.
we've got to really get to is first identifying where those limitations still are, what we bought from our family in every area. Um, Bodies, money, health, pain, affections, relationships, you name it. We've got all of those things that we've taken on from our family. So, first is beginning to identify them, and then is not going back into their reality. And that's what we do. We have our reality, we have a sense of who we are, we're creating, we're doing this. And the pull, particularly with a big family, but it's there with all families, to go back into what they've decided you are and who you are and how you relate to everything is really enormous. So you can't change them, but you sure can change not going back into it. It's not always as easy as we'd like it to be, but there are lots of tips for that.
Yeah, well, maybe you could talk to that because that was a distinction I had to make. It was
Yes.
like my family has to change and I have to change as a part of that, I guess was like my point of view before. And now it's like, but how I relate to everything that is family
Yes.
and recovering me. Like it was
Yes.
sort of like energetically me and my family. If there wasn't a separation, it was all kind of lumped into this big thing. Where I'm
Very
like,
good point. I'm going to stop you because I want people to get that. It's a glumping thing. It's
yeah.
not like they're separate individuals. Oh, hi, Tracy. What's up for you today? What are you interested in? Who are you?
Oh my God. If somebody asked me that, I would have been like, what? Yeah, no, that didn't happen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe like we can start there. So if you are at a space where you like you can and it's sort of like that feeling of like because I like moved away from home and then I'd come visit home.
Yes.
So I went to like undergrad. I'm from like Canada, so I went to undergrad like away. So I moved out of
Yes.
my parents' house, which doesn't seem like a big deal now, but in my family, not I didn't see a lot of people choosing that.
Yes.
Everyone lived at home and then did school there, but like that limited their choice and I knew I like wanted to like leave, but I
Yeah.
noticed that when I would drive home I would start to like be aware of this energy of sort of like almost like gloom and doom, not really but kind of. And it was a very familiar energy. And this is what I mean about the galumping, because I thought like that was me.
Right. And it wasn't.
And it wasn't, but it took me like years to figure out the difference. So if someone is at the stage where they're like, I don't know me from my family energetically, it just kind of all is one, like what can someone do if they're there?
Well, that's a really good question. And it sort of depends on the situation, how old they are, how much of a sense of themselves and their own reality they've developed. If they haven't developed any sense of being them, it's really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is to begin to go, well, who am I away from my family? And one thing I ask people to remember is your family, your biological mother and father, gave you your biological body. They are not the parents of your being. And people get really confused about that.
Yes.
Because
I can sense it right now.
we begin to develop our sense of who we are from all of the interactions with our family growing up.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, we're in the Gary and Dane, the creators of Access Consciousness, call the womb the implantation station. That's where we start to get ideas, even from, oh, babies are difficult, or I hope we don't have another girl, or any of these kinds of things. We pick that up. Kids are psychic. We don't need the verbalization to know what's going on. It's energetic. Life is really energetic. So we pick up those things and then we react to them as we grow older and take that with us. So really, the first thing is to go, okay, if I didn't have this family, who would I be?
Wow.
What would I be interested in? What do I know is true about me? Because what we're really looking to find is what's true for you. Without all the cultural, without all the family, without all of those influences. And it doesn't mean you have to walk away and discard everything. Maybe your families they love nature and gardening. So do you. That's fine. It's just if they love nature and gardening and you don't, or they love the opera, or they don't think you should go to college, or whatever it is, and you know that something different is true for you, that's when you've got to really begin to go, okay, so what is true for me in this situation? And teasing it out. And that's why we're going to have this thing in the future, or tomorrow or whatever, but teasing it out is really important, because you cannot have and be all of you until you're very clear that you know what's true for you in every area, and you've gotten away from everything you've been told you should be, and whether that's verbal or energetic, or you just kind of osmosis, like family's everything, and you should put yourself after family, and all of those kinds of things.
Right. Or like you exist outside of family. You know what I mean? That was like a new concept for me. I was like, what? Like, I can actually exist as a being outside of my family. Like that was something, and not even outside. That's not even exactly what I mean. I just can't think of like a different word, but it's like I can be my own being.
Yes.
And my family is still there.
Yes.
But there's not this galumping of like, oh, I have to do all these things. And you know what? Actually, Marilyn, I don't know why it's coming to my head, but being a chiropractor and working on patients, it was like, it's kind of interesting how people just assume that their bodies will be like their family's bodies.
Yes.
Like so many people told me, well, my mom had knee pain when they have knee pain.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is that relevant? Like to me, it made no sense. Like I was like, how is that relevant? But I heard it over and over again. And so it's kind of like that osmosis you were talking about, how we just like don't question things.
Right. Well, and even things like my mom was depressed, so of course I'm depressed. Or my mom was an alcoholic, so I have a different addiction, but I'm an alcoholic or an addict, or I'm addicted to food, overeating, or whatever. It's exactly, we don't question any of those things. And we take on, I used to do a class called, I can't even think of the name of it, but basically it was the energies of addiction. And what I talked about was how everything has an energy. if your parents were alcoholic, you won't necessarily be an alcoholic, but what you did was to take on the energy of addiction as normal. So you may end up, being addicted to having to make lots of money, or to image, or to overeating, or to gambling, or relationships. You're operating out of an energy. It's just whatever target, because addiction is just an energy looking for a target. And I don't mean necessarily to go over that, but it's something that shows up in families in a lot of different ways. And if you think it's just about alcohol and drugs, you can really miss something that's critical to you being able to take control of your life.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you for saying that, because I was in your family telecall that you did. Well, not in it, but I did the replay. And it's so funny because the tools that you gave in that class, they weren't like, they were basic. And I almost wanted to look over them. I'm not going to lie to you. I almost wanted to skim over them and be like, whatever. But I actually did what you like said. So one of the basic tools that you gave was looking at what is.
Yeah.
Right? Like not what I projected my family to be, not to make them right, not all, but just looking at what is.
Yeah.
And it was so I don't even know if I have the words, but how much that changed things for me, because I realized that there were so many lies in
Mm-hmm.
my family, and it wasn't like people were bad, you know,
No.
but there were just so many lies. It's like how we coped with what was going on. There's a lot of like abuse and stuff, and addiction in my family. And
Yeah.
even saying that right now, Marilyn, there's like this energy of like, I'm a traitor, like guilty, like you can't say that, even though I know that that's actually true.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe you can talk about that, where it's like when you look, if you're in a family like me, if you had that, where there were so many lies, when you're willing to look at what is with as much of no point of view as I can be, which
Yes.
is actually really challenging at some points. But when you do that, it's like this sense, and maybe it's just me, but there's this sense of um, I'm not like loyal to my family, or I'm doing something wrong by looking at actually what is, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense, because families require our loyalty and require us to not call them on lies.
Hmm.
Because then they'd have to look at their stuff. And most people, they don't desire to, they don't have the tools to do it. And once again, they're not right or wrong. It's just how they were brought up, how it perpetuates down through all of the generations. But when you're willing to see what is, oh, actually, dad was neglectful unless it was in this area, where my parents were intellectuals. Well, that was the one acceptable area, kind of. But, you're not supposed to have a body. You're not supposed to be sexual. And that's kind of a denial of life. But when you can begin to look at it and go, oh, mom and dad were pretty against bodies. Okay, now what? What do I choose with that? And where have I taken on that belief system? The bodies are bad. You're here to have a spiritual life, and then you'll ascend, or whatever it is. If you don't ascend, you'll go to heaven, or you go somewhere. But for heaven's sakes, don't pay attention to your body.
Yeah. No, I didn't have that at all. You're not pulling that from my head at all. No, oh my God, that's actually like it's funny, because even just being around you, that's the gift of being like around you and talking about this topic. I just want people to know, because it can be challenging to look
Yeah,
at this with
it
no
can.
point of view, but
Yeah,
you don't have that point of view that I have.
right.
Clearly, because you just talked about it, and I was like, shit, I have that point of view as you're speaking about it. I'm like, damn. But the beauty is that I could look at it right now, energetically looking, not with my eyes looking, but energetically, I
Yes.
can look at it with you right now. And it's clearly not mine. Obviously,
No.
I love bodies. I'm a fucking
You're a
chiropractor. You know what
chiropractor, exactly.
I mean? In case that wasn't clear to me, I'm a chiropractor, but it's like, oh, that's not mine.
Yeah,
And that immediately, I don't know if you can sense in my world, like
I
some of my
do.
wrongness is just like dissipating. It's like,
There's a relaxation.
oh, my body's like, thank God. I mean, hello, I have your back. I've had your back. And I'm like, whoa. Like it almost makes me teary, just like, wow, that's so cool. So
Yeah.
this is what I want people to know, is like the gift of, because I think in this reality sometimes, and this as a therapist, it can be like so tempting to just like make the past greater and more
Yes.
significant. And you know what someone actually taught me recently or told me? We were chatting and they were like, in school, you're taught about history
Yeah.
and we have to honor the past and like history. We're taught about that, but we're not taught about creating a future.
No. And that's where we should be going forward. We're all going backwards.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
may not actually be backwards sometimes, but like if you stay there, like if I stay there too long
Mhm.
and just kind of like throw myself a pity party and feel bad for myself, which I did at some point. I'm not gonna like lie. I totally thought that that was the
I
right
think we
thing to
all
do.
do. That's normal.
Yeah, but then like that doesn't create anything
No,
for
it
me.
doesn't create. And I'm all about creating.
Me
What can you
too.
create? I know that about you, Tracy. What can we all create going forward?
Yeah.
That's the big question. And let's let go of the things, identify and release anything that's preventing that forward movement, that really grabbing onto the uniqueness of each of us.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's a family membership coming up, and
yay!
I'm really excited about it because even just talking to you now, I'm like I didn't even know I had these points of view.
Right.
It's so crazy to even talk about it. But can you maybe just talk about the membership, like why now? And also like what are some of the topics that, we're going to be covering?
Well, why now is an interesting question. My sense is that, I mean, with everything that's going on in the world, with all the wars, with we just got out of the pandemic, with financial things, people in a way are being kicked out of normal complacency, which we've all
Mhm.
done. I certainly did it. Oh, yeah, this is my life. This is what I do. This is what I'm supposed to do. Go to college, get this job. It's harder to stay in that. So for a lot of people, it's
Mm,
like, okay, now what? What can I change? What instead of feeling like you're the effect of everything, I get that numerous numbers, which is kind of silly, of people are like, okay, where do we change? And family to me, everything I've done as a psychotherapist for 36 years, family is the biggest single influence on all of us.
ah,
No, there are probably some weird exceptions, but that's what I mean. That's what I found with my clients over and over and over again, and often unacknowledged. Oh no,
yeah,
that was not. I had a good family, and I went to college, and now I'm doing this and doing that, and so what's going on with the anxiety? Where does that come from? It's really it's about digging underneath and seeing what's still stopping you, not mucking around in it. I learned early on as a psychotherapist, I didn't need to muck around with people. It wasn't helpful. But making sure that we're looking at, you were talking earlier about being willing to be aware of what is. So it's
mhm,
really, that's the core of it, being willing to be aware of what is, what was, and what we bought from it. And the willingness to let it go and begin to really get a sense of what's true for each of us, what's true for you. So, I mean, there's so many topics with family. There's, bodies and pain and money and addiction and relationships and anything about religion and sex, cultural roles and sibling roles and being a parent. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. So,
holy moly.
yeah, each month we'll take a different topic. And
Okay.
we're starting tomorrow, and the topic is what does family really have to do with it? And it'll be an expansion of a few of the things we've talked about today. Because before we start on it, I'd like people to have this sense of just how huge the influence of family is
Yeah.
and how often unacknowledged and how much freedom we can have by just, all right, you know what? I'm going to look at this and I'm moving on. I'm creating my life.
Yeah, and I just want thank you for saying that, and it's like, I just want people to know too, like, just from your family telecall, I got that tool and the space. So it's not just the tool, it's also you being the space of
Yeah.
no point of view and just literally allowing me to finally be present enough with this topic that I've, like, avoided and didn't wanna look at. Hi to your kitties.
Hi,
They're
Kitty.
cute.
There's a tail for you.
I love cats and you know that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it was like for the first time, because I've always been willing to look at this, Marilyn, but I've
Mhm.
never actually been willing to be present enough. to have no point of view. It's always like, well, what's the right way to look at this? What's the wrong way? What's the right way? I'm trying to get to the right way, but still making myself wrong. And so I just wanted to like share with people that the space that's created from these calls to be present enough to look at this thing, it honestly it blew my mind how fast it changed. Like even right now, like how fast things change. It's just so cool. And so I also wanted to mention that you have a hot seat call
Yes, I
too
do.
on, I
Someone
think
will
it's,
apply to have there'll be the regular call and then the hot seats. People can apply to have that in that session. That's a 30-minute session, but that's where I'll be facilitating someone.
yeah. So I just wanted to mention that too, that that's a part of the
Mhm.
membership, because it's like if you are just like really stuck with something, you can also apply to be on the hot seat call
Yeah,
and maybe really,
absolutely.
really, really change something. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows exactly?
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to like leave anybody with who's watching this and maybe thinking
Just
about?
don't be afraid to go into this. Really, it seems scary, but once you start to unravel some things, it's not. You are far more potent and have more courage and strength than you know that you do. So let's get it on. Let's do this.
Let's get it on. Thank you so much, Marilyn.
Thank you, Tracy.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.